Ever feel like, okay, you know how our bodies are? They're capable of like the most amazing things.
Right.
It's like we have these hidden superpowers.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, get this. We're diving into the world of natural killer cells,
Okay.
NK cells for short, and these things are incredible.
Yeah, how so?
They're like the superheroes of your immune system.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
They can actually spot and then, get this, eliminate cancer cells.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a built-in defense force.
That's incredible. I mean, it is truly remarkable how our bodies just like come pre-equipped to fight off these threats, you know? It's like these NK cells, they're constantly on patrol, just scoping things out, looking for anything suspicious.
Yeah, yeah. And today's deep dive, we're going off of this really interesting article. It's from Assay Genie,
Okay.
and it's called KIR Blockade, Empowering NK Cells for Superior Tumor Clearance, which is a mouthful.
It is a bit of a mouthful.
But it basically gets into how we can actually make these NK cells even more effective.
Yeah.
In their fight against cancer.
See, that's what's so exciting about all this research in this area, you know? It's not just about treating cancer, it's about like finding ways to really supercharge the body's own natural defenses.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So then, okay, if NK cells are so good at destroying cancer cells, how do tumors even form in the first place?
Well, you see, tumors, they're pretty sneaky. They've learned these evasive maneuvers over time, ways to basically dodge detection by these NK cells.
So they're like, what are they wearing camouflage? Like how are they doing this?
Think of it almost like they're putting on an invisibility cloak.
An invisibility cloak. So they're hiding from our immune system.
Essentially, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. But like, how is that even possible? How do they do that?
It all comes down to these things called KIR receptors.
KIR receptors.
Yeah, they're on the surface of NK cells. And what tumors can do is they can actually manipulate these receptors. They send out these signals, like little messages, that essentially tell the NK cells, hey, move along, nothing to see here.
So they're hacking the system. They're using the NK cells' own receptors against them.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, they're very devious, these tumor cells.
Wow. Okay, so that's pretty remarkable.
Right.
But so what can we do? Like we're just letting them win.
No, not at all. The good news is scientists have been hard at work and they've figured out a way to fight back. And this is where KIR blockade comes in.
KI blockade.
Yeah, think of it, imagine like you've got this communication line between the tumor and the NK cell, and KIR blockade is like cutting the wires.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Yeah.
So how does this KIR blockade, how does it actually work?
So researchers have developed these things called monoclonal antibodies, and basically they act like tiny little targeted missiles. And there's one in particular, it's called 17F9. And what this does is it acts like almost like a master key.
What?
It blocks those inhibitory signals that the tumors are using to hide.
So it's like taking the blindfold off of the NK cells so they can finally see the tumor for what it is.
You got it. And here's the really incredible part. This 17F9 antibody, it doesn't just block one type of inhibitory signal, it blocks 3.
Oh, wow.
It's remarkable.
So it's a triple threat.
Exactly.
Wow. So this is all great in theory, but how does it actually translate to like real world treatments? Are we seeing this being used to actually fight cancer in people?
We are, and the results they're really promising so far. Now, of course, research is still ongoing, but KIR blockade is showing a lot of potential.
Okay.
For treating a variety of cancers. One in particular is a type of leukemia. It's called AML. And studies have actually shown that by using KIR blockade, and especially in combination with some existing therapies, we can actually see significant improvements in remission rates for some leukemia patients.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We're talking up to 70% in some cases.
70%. That's huge. So for people who haven't responded to other treatments, this could be really life-changing.
Potentially, yeah. It's a big deal. And what's really exciting is it's not just AML. KIR blockade is being looked at for solid tumors too. Things like renal cell carcinoma, non-small cell lung cancer. We're talking about a whole new frontier in cancer treatment here.
It's like instead of just attacking the cancer directly, we're giving the body the tools it needs to kind of fight back on its own, right?
That's the idea. It's all about harnessing that power of the immune system.
What could be better than that?
And the really exciting thing is that this isn't a, one size fits all kind of approach.
What do you mean?
Well, KIR blockade, it can actually work really well with other immunotherapies, like, for example, checkpoint inhibitors.
Wow.
And this combined approach, it's like Imagine giving the immune system a whole arsenal of weapons to fight cancer on multiple fronts.
I love that analogy. Yeah, it's like instead of just one weapon, we're equipping the immune system with a whole arsenal. That's pretty remarkable.
It's pretty amazing stuff.
It is. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I'm really curious to learn more about how these different therapies work together, because it sounds like there's a lot to unpack there. So you're saying combining KIR blockade with these other therapies, it's like we're assembling like an immune system dream team. Is that what you're getting at?
That's a great way to put it. Checkpoint inhibitors, they're like releasing the brakes on the immune system, taking away those limitations that were holding it back.
Okay.
And then KIR blockade steps in and it's like hitting the accelerator, but specifically for those NK cells.
Gotcha. So it's like we're giving our immune system, not only are we giving it the tools, but we're giving it like the green light to go after those cancer cells, right?
Precisely. And remember how we talked about those sneaky tumors trying to evade detection? Well, this combo strategy, it's brilliant because even if a tumor somehow manages to evade those T cells, which are what checkpoint inhibitors usually target,
Right.
the NK cells, they're still on high alert, ready to take them down.
Oh, wow. So it's like we have a two-pronged attack.
Uh,
That's incredible.
yeah,
It's like we're increasing the chances of actually eliminating the cancer.
exactly.
Okay. This all sounds very, very promising, but I imagine there are still some challenges. Like, I mean, are there areas where we still need more research?
Of course, of course. As with any new medical advancement, right?
Sure.
Especially in the world of immunotherapy, which is incredibly complex,
Right.
there are always hurdles to overcome. One area that we're really focusing on is understanding and then managing any potential side effects.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the immune system, it's powerful, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to regulate that power a little bit so it doesn't, cause any unintended consequences.
Exactly. One of the challenges with KIR blockade is the potential for what we call immune-related adverse events. So basically, what can happen is the immune system, now that it's all supercharged, it might accidentally target healthy tissues.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's so important to be very careful about which patients receive this treatment.
Right.
And we need to monitor them very closely while they're undergoing treatment.
So it's about finding that balance. Like, how do we unleash the immune system's full potential, but make sure it doesn't, go overboard?
Exactly.
Okay. What about, another challenge I've heard about is tumor resistance.
Yeah.
Like cancer cells they're clever, they're survivors. Could they find ways to like evade even these, enhanced NK cells?
That's a critical question. And I can tell you, researchers are all over it. I mean, imagine this. Some tumor cells might actually try to, reduce the signals that attract NK cells in the first place.
Oh, wow. Sneaky.
So they make themselves less appealing targets. Others might release factors that actually suppress the immune response altogether.
So it's like a constant game of chess.
It really is.
It's like the researchers and clinicians they're trying to outmaneuver these cancer cells, which are constantly evolving.
That's a great way to think about it. And that's why we have to keep refining our strategies, exploring new combinations of therapies, really diving deep into this intricate dance between the immune system and these cancer cells.
And speaking of diving deeper, the article that we were talking about, it mentioned this search for biomarkers to predict treatment response.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because that sounds like it could be a really, really crucial piece of the puzzle.
Oh, absolutely. Right now, we don't have a foolproof way to know for sure which patients will respond best to KIR blockade. But imagine if we could find these reliable biomarkers. Think of them like molecular clues.
Okay.
That would be revolutionary.
Yeah. So what kind of clues would these biomarkers, what would they actually tell us?
Well, imagine you could analyze the levels of certain proteins in the blood, or even just look for specific genetic markers in the tumor cells themselves.
Okay.
These biomarkers, they could tell us which patients are most likely to benefit from KIR blockade. And then we could create truly personalized treatment plans.
So it's about moving away from that one-size-fits-all model to something that's much more tailored to the individual.
Precisely. And that's what makes this entire area of research so incredibly exciting. The potential for KIR blockade to transform cancer treatment, it's really immense.
It's really amazing to think, we have this powerful tool within us just waiting to be unleashed,
Yeah.
It really gives you a sense of hope for the future of cancer treatment.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about cancer, right? The more we learn about the immune system, the more we realize how much potential it has to to fight all kinds of diseases. It feels like we're on the verge of like a whole new era in medicine.
It really does. And this Assay Genie article that we've been talking about, it's been amazing.
Yeah,
It's given us such a good look into, this really cutting edge world of
that
immunotherapy.
is fascinating.
Um, but before we wrap things up here, I want to make sure that we've really hit on those key takeaways.
Okay, yeah.
So if our listeners, they're driving home from work or they're out for a walk and they could only remember a few things about KR blockade,
Mhm.
what would you want those things to be?
Well, I think first and foremost, I want them to remember that there's hope, right? We're
Mm.
seeing such incredible progress in immunotherapy. And care blockade with this targeted approach, it's showing tremendous promise.
Yeah. It's about, like we were saying before, it's about empowering the body to fight back on its own, right? Using those NK cells.
Exactly. And it's not just one thing, right? It's a whole approach to treatment. And we talked about how combining it with these other immunotherapies like checkpoint inhibitors can have this really powerful synergy.
Right, right. It's like giving your immune system the ultimate boost.
That's a great way to put it. Of course, we have to, acknowledge that there are challenges, right?
Yeah.
We talked about potential side effects, the possibility of tumor resistance, but the important thing to remember is that researchers are constantly working on solutions, right?
Yeah.
We're refining our understanding of the immune system. We're developing new strategies to overcome these obstacles.
So it's a process,
Mhm.
but it definitely seems like the progress that's being made is something to be optimistic about.
Oh, absolutely. And for anyone listening out there who's been touched by cancer, either personally or maybe, through a loved one, I want to say this, stay curious, stay informed, don't be afraid to ask questions, advocate for yourself or for your loved ones. The world of medicine is constantly changing and knowledge is power.
I love that. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mm.
This has been a really, really incredible deep dive. I've learned so much about CARE-IR blockade and really just the power of our own immune systems.
Me too.
And for our listeners, if this has piqued your interest, don't stop here. Please go out, learn more, keep exploring, and stay tuned because I'm sure there are even more fascinating discoveries to come in the world of science and medicine.
Absolutely. I mean, who knows, right? Maybe one day, thanks to all this groundbreaking research, we'll look back on cancer as a disease that we've largely overcome.
Now, that's a future worth striving for.
It is.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Until next time, keep asking those big questions and never stop exploring.